Hello and welcome to the Choralosophy Podcast, a weekly podcast whose mission is multifaceted. Each week when you tune in, you will find episodes that question best practices, challenge music education dogma, facilitate conversations about touchy topics, demonstrate pedagogies, and conversations where colleagues learn from each other. This is episode 287. Give them tools and let them build, part 4, the rhythm episode. Now, I've told this story on the podcast before, but it's been many years. Complex rhythmic patterns as a teacher and as a singer have always been my kryptonite. It's not one of my strengths. And of course, I don't mean I'm bad at rhythm. If I gather 100 random strangers on the street, I'm probably going to be, as a professional musician, the best rhythm person in the group of 100. But that doesn't mean that compared to other musicians, I don't feel intimidated. Some of those trickier rhythmic patterns have always been a challenge for me. So in many of my years of teaching, I've avoided super tricky aspects of rhythm. I have avoided certain types of music, say from cultures even, that are more rhythmic centered, not because I have a cultural bias, but because I'm afraid of the rhythm. So over the last several years, this has been a real focus for me because I don't want to have weaknesses. Of course, we all do, but I want to identify those and become better at them. So I know that over the last 3 or 4 years, I've gotten better at this. I've gotten better at coming up with a system for myself and also one for teaching students. And several of those tools and those systems are related to the ideas that we now know about keeping the beat in the body, the kinesthetic connection, and all aspects of reading. It actually is true that people who are struggling to read also oftentimes struggle to keep a steady beat, and vice versa. There is a connection between all of those things. It has to do with how our brain plans out time. We're going to be focusing on the ways that our students can learn to pull out certain rhythmic-related tools to solve their problem. If they feel that they are struggling to figure out when to sing something, they can be taught to know that it's a rhythm tool that they need to pull out. So we're going to be learning about count singing and where and how that is the proper tool. We're going to learn about keeping the beat in the body and ways students can be taught to do this as part of their warm-ups. I think it's just as important as solfege and hand signs and all of those things is rhythm exercises, Takadimi, movement, etc. And we're going to talk about how to use Takadimi as a rehearsal tool and not just a warm-up or an academic tool. We're going to talk about the value in choral and vocal music of simply what I call rapping, speaking the rhythm and the words and pulling out the intuition oftentimes that comes from the spoken language to inform the rhythm. So stick around, you're not going to want to miss this one. But of course, make sure you have listened to episodes 1 through 3 before you do this one. I think it will make a whole lot more sense if you listen in order. It's not a rule, and the podcast police won't come after you, but make sure you listen all the way to the end and leave your comments over on the Choralosophers Facebook page or head over to the Substack where you can participate in conversations happening there. Choir directors, music educators, show planners, you pour your heart into your music. Shouldn't your events get the same attention? That's where Ludus comes in. Sell tickets, promote your concerts, and fundraise with ease. Selling merchandise and concessions? Ludus Retail makes in-person sales effortless. Running choir camps or workshops? They have a classes feature that keeps registration simple, and when you need help, the live support team is ready to pop up with real answers from real people. The best part? It's completely free for organizations. Thousands of music programs already trust Ludus because great music deserves more than just a ticketing system. Ensemble trips can be more than just a performance. They can build community, inspire artistry, and give students a reason to stay invested. That's why I recommend Kaleidoscope Adventures. For more than 30 years, Kaleidoscope has helped student groups travel with purpose, combining performance opportunities with experiences that deepen musical understanding and create lifelong memories. They'll help you find the right destination, the right venue, and the right balance of music, education, and fun. And they manage the planning from start to finish so you can focus on your job as an educator. To explore options for your choir, visit mykatrip.com or find the link in the show notes. Big shout out goes to the producers and Inner Circle over at the Patreon page. These are folks that are really dedicated to keeping the lights on here at this show. Venture Studios, Chandler Smith, Brian Long, Michael Herron, Kyle Peterson, Steve and Kathy Kakachik, David Kowalczyk, Max Jackson, Angie Schilling, Rebecca Chalk, RJ McCracken, Michael Shimp, and Kyle Siddons. Okay, so after part 3, of course, magically, all your students now know what pitches to sing. No, I'm just kidding. Actually, this process takes years. For me, it took about 3 or 4 years before kids could do this fluently on a regular basis, and it became a program expectation. But let's just take the thought experiment. They know what the notes are supposed to sound like, but now they need to know when to sing them, and they need to know for how long to sing them. And of course, if they're anywhere in the spectrum of beginners, then reading rhythms is going to be not super intuitive for them. And so we have to have a system for teaching them what rhythms sound like. If solfege is the system for teaching them what pitches sound like, then we need an equivalent system to teach them how to feel beat in their bodies, because as research shows, they need to feel it as a macro body movement that is hugely beneficial to them. So standing still and simply chanting is not enough. Doing something kinesthetic is huge for getting that internalization and that beat keeping to start to be independent. But even that, again, just like solfege, just like pitch, I think we assume that these things are going to be quicker and easier. So a rhythm, tapping a steady beat should be easier than finding a bunch of pitches. It is for some kids, but for a lot of kids, keeping a steady beat is one of the biggest challenges that they encounter, even in high school, especially if this was not given to them as a usable skill when they were younger. Just like any other part of of language acquisition is best done when you're under 7 years old. And so for some kids, I see this a lot with kids who start choir as their first music class that they have taken since elementary school. Oftentimes, what those kids will show is a real struggle to keep the beat, but also to match pitch. So these two things go hand in hand oftentimes. So if we're doing those daily drills related to solfege, and we're doing the pitch recognition, and we're questioning them on what pitch they actually sang versus the one they tried to sing, and we're doing lots of scales, lots of arpeggios, lots of patterns back and forth related to pitch, we should be giving equal attention in our daily warm-ups to the rhythm of things. So I gave examples in part 3 about having them sing a pattern of pitches and then translate it into solfege. Like, what solfege did you just sing, for example? And have them speak back. Oh, I sang sol, fa, mi, re, do. Okay, cool. So, and they're recognizing that. You can do the same thing with rhythms. So if we do just the plain old warm-ups, which I do see a lot of folks online criticize those mindless warm-ups of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, bum, bum. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, which I understand why those get criticized. They can be mindless, but they can also be incredibly impactful if we're asking the right questions. So for example, if I do a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 kind of a warm-up, there's a goal. They're having a vowel combination that they're trying to negotiate and sing purely, or a combination of articulation. Or I'm setting a steady beat, da 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 da, and they hear the snap, and then I might stop after they do a couple. What rhythms are we singing? Hear it in your head. Here's my beat. Oh, that's ta-dee, 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 ta. Oh, what are those called? Oh, those are called eighth notes. We can work into the warm-up, and that little pause in the warm-up takes 15 seconds, and we're right back to the singing. And then I might have them do 3 or 4 more of those and stop again. What solfege are we singing, by the way? When we sing da 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 da. Oh, that's do, re, mi, fa, sol, fa, mi, re, do. That's correct. Okay, back to it. And what I'm doing there is, even if not every single kid is answering that question, what happens is it stops being a mindless warm-up and starts being redirected towards what pitches are we doing, what rhythms are we doing, and can we do it because we hear it. We hear that those rhythms are happening. And you can, as they get better at these types of things, you can do things like snap a different beat, have them sing the same exercise. If that's the beat, what are we singing? Hey, then they'll get out their fingers, start counting. Da, 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 da. That's like 10 notes. Like, what, is there a 10 tuplet? It doesn't really even matter. The point is that they're starting to think about how the beat gets divided and how we think about the difference between what a beat looks like on paper, which comes in a different part of class when we're working on reading, and what a beat sounds like and what a beat feels like. Another example would be like if we're going to sight read 6/8 time. What I'm going to actually do is I'm going to put up a sight reading factory exercise on the screen so the video folks can see it. But if you're not on the video, you'll be continued to be entertained by my trashed baseball coach voice singing this exercise for you. Okay, so we're going to choose level 2. We're going to choose 6/8 time as an example of how our warm-ups can inform the sight reading. The warm-ups can then inform the repertoire rehearsal, etc. All of those things, when we are really humming as educators, everything works together. So here's an exercise you can see on the screen. It's in the key of F, and my speaker's back on so I can hear my F. And as some of you who have listened to a lot of the literacy series in the past, you know that I have my kids sing a certain scale and arpeggio pattern before we sing. We sing the scale and arpeggio, then we audiate it. When we audiate the exercise. But in this case, if I see them get a 6/8 exercise from Sight Reading Factory, then the way we sing our scale and arpeggio would change. I ask them to sing it in 6/8. How could we fit our pattern that we always sing into a 6/8 time signature? And of course, by that point, we will have already practiced what 6/8 feels like and sounds like before I have them do it on the screen. It would have been things like our Takadimi exercises where we're swaying back and forth and we're feeling takida, 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 takida. Now I would then say, okay, so a 6/8 measure is just two of those. It's two of those per measure. Oh, okay. And then they feel it's a sway this way and it's a sway that way. And then eventually, once we're really good at those from all of our warm-ups, I might try our first 6/8 exercise, maybe a week or two into school, something pretty simple. And then I would say, okay, let's see if we can figure out how to fit the 6/8 time into our scale and arpeggio. So, do, re, mi, fa, so, fa, mi, re, do. Where does it feel like the beat is, guys? Well, those are ta-dee, ta-dee. This is a beat of two. We need takitas. Takida, 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 ta. And then they might go do, re, mi, fa, so, fa, mi, re, do. Do, ti, la, so, fa, so, la, ti, do. That doesn't really fit very well. And almost all the time I ask them that then they end up singing something wrong because it doesn't fit metrically. And we eventually settle on something like this. Do, re, mi, fa, so, fa, mi, re, do. Do, ti, la, so, fa, so, la, ti, do. Do, mi, so, mi, do. Fa, la, fa, do. Mi, so, mi, do, so, do. And we have not only audiated all the pitch and rhythm combinations, chord progressions, etc. in a Sight Reading Factory exercise, but we've started to feel the beat and how it will look on the paper. Right, so then the attention goes up on the screen, and we would keep a steady beat together, usually by swaying and using our hand signs. And that would be another way I can check for engagement from each of the students. Is everybody doing it? And if not, it will impact your grade because you're not doing anything. You know, all that stuff happens, gets loaded at the very beginning of the school year. Then it's time to sing. We would sing our scale and arpeggio again, and it's time to give it our first attempt. Now, what I would be listening for is for them to start combining all of their tools. Their first note would sound like do, and I would say 1 and a 2. Do and a 2 and a do, mi, so and a 2 and a mi, re, do and a 2 and a ti and a do and a 2 and a. What we teach them is that at any time, subdivision is always good. I threw in an extra subdivision there at the end, but I wouldn't bother my kids about that. What we teach them is any time the note is longer than a beat, the subdivision just isn't optional. We need to know not only how the rhythm is broken down, but we need to know how long to sing it. And the subdivision takes away the guesswork. Okay, so I'm going to stay in 6/8 time, and I'm going to go to something harder, so we have something more than just dotted quarter notes and dotted halves. So here we see our rhythmic pattern that fits our scale and arpeggio very explicitly. Do, ti, do, mi, so, mi, re, mi, so, la, so, fa, mi, so, mi, re, do, ti, do, and a 2, and a do, and a 2, and a. And once we added, a few years ago, that count singing element on longer notes, we just pretty much eliminated in one school year the problem of moving on through those long notes too soon or too late, because we're getting to the point where the whole group, all the groups, beginner, medium, advanced, know exactly when the measures end. Okay, so now let's say on that same exercise, that was a level 4. These are kids and they're beginners, and they didn't sing it as fluently as I just did, and they probably won't. And they're struggling to decipher those patterns of quarter eighth. That's where we would pull out our Takadimi tool. And what I would have hopefully gotten them to get by the 3 or 4 weeks later when we're doing harder exercises is that they would now know which tool they need. And my response to something like that would be like this. So I'll sing what they would sing, maybe. Do, ti, do, mi, so, mi, re, mi, with lots of stopping, pausing, waiting for each other, approximating rhythms. And I would stop them and I would say, okay, so what is getting us here? Is it the pitches or the rhythms? And they would, by that point, they would know it's the rhythm. We're just not doing it at the right time because they recognize that it was do and it was ti and it's the right notes, but they're not singing at the right time. So then what tool do we need? If it's not the notes, what tool do we need? Oh, we need Takadimi. Okay, so what Takadimi would that be? The beat is divided by what? And then I would make them answer. It's divided by 3, so then we call it takida, takida, takida. All right, but the quarter note is 2 eighth notes, so 2 of those subdivisions. So what does it get? It gets the ta, and the key is silent, and then, so we would get ta, di, ta, apologies, ta, da, ta, da, ta, da, ta, da, ta. Oh, okay, so now can you take that information and put the solfege back in? Do, ti, do, mi. And if that's not fluent, we do that measure until both the pitch and rhythm are right. Now, in the way I approach sight singing on Sight Reading Factory on the screen at the beginning of every class is that we don't go much deeper than that in our daily exercises. What I'm doing in that time, so in other words, we might not dissect that entire exercise and have kids correct every single thing perfectly until before we move on. In fact, I almost always wouldn't do that because I'm trying to get them to also buy in psychologically to the idea that, you know what, we're not going to perfect everything every day. It's okay to leave some details fixed, but did we learn the tool that we could have used to solve that had we spent all hour on it? Sure. Okay, good. Now let's take those tools and now let's go learn the fun songs that we are going to perform in front of your parents. That's the point, is that we are taking these rhythm and pitch concepts and we are applying. So, of course, we're taking that information that we learned in our sight reading exercise and we are then applying it to the repertoire. And so if I'm doing a 6/8 exercise like that, I'm going to probably try to find an opportunity to do it in conjunction with a song that they're learning that's in 6/8, or at least a song that has that triple feel so that they can use those Takadimi skills that they learned in their warm-up and that they then applied in a clinical setting in Sight Reading Factory, and then they can take that same skill into their repertoire. If you haven't already, I really think it's time for you to ditch the bulky sight reading books, the paper, all of the things that are already in the kids' folders in your classroom because it's not customizable to what they need in the moment. Sight Reading Factory allows this and so much more. And then the work we do in the classroom can be customized to what they need in the music and the repertoire they're learning, and it can be customized to their current learning level as a group. So use the Coralosophy checkout code, Coralosophy. When you check out, it'll give you a 10% discount every time you get a membership for yourself and for all of your students, which is really, really important so they can do this at home. Okay, the next idea I have for you is something I like to call Takadimi Tuesdays. And that is just a way for me to remember to get to these basic skills in our literacy work at the beginning of class with Sight Reading Factory at least once a week, because I do think that when it all shakes out, the thing that kids need the most time on is the muscle coordination of exactly accurate pitch, audiation, and recreation based on what they see. So I'm still going to take 4 or 5 days a week to focus on how to read pitch and how to hear pitch happening in our head and have that incorporated into every warm-up. Rhythm is incorporated into every warm-up, but on Tuesdays, because it sounds cool to say Takadimi Tuesdays, I like the idea of putting up a rhythm-only exercise on Sight Reading Factory. So I'm going to show you some ways that we do that and why we might choose different tools, Takadimi versus counts versus clapping versus other things, in order to get kids to see and hear the rhythm happening in their head and feel it fluently in their body. Okay, I'm going to choose a 4/4 exercise. I'm going to be in level 3 for now. And you can see the rhythm, if we're doing rhythm only, the level 3 exercises give you some tough little challenges and tons of combinations of pitch and rhythm to do. So I originally was taught the band way with almost all rhythm reading, was just count singing all the time, counting all the time. So, for example, in the way that I started teaching kids, even for the first 20 years almost of teaching kids to read rhythm, it would have been the way that band students oftentimes learn, where they might count out loud 1 and 2 and 3 and then try to finger their instrument, the rhythm, or put their fingers down at the right time. For example, if in measure 3 of this exercise, for those of you who can see it on the YouTube or Spotify video version, there is a 16th note to start that measure. As a kid, I would have learned 1E and a 2, 3 and 4 and 1, etc. But I find that counts when the rhythms start moving quickly, even like dividing the beat within the beat. So the divisions of the beat, when they start moving quickly, and kids have to think about pitch, and kids have to think about solfege, the counts end up getting in the way. Because when we're dividing the beat in half or in thirds or dividing the beat by 4, that is a feeling, that is something we hear in our head. If we can hear it in our head, we can perform it a lot easier. Takadimi for me has become the tool for that scenario. I'm not a Takadimi all the time convert. I'm a Takadimi when it makes sense for the rhythm that we are looking at. So if beats are being divided up into chunks, I'm going to go to Takadimi. If beats are longer, or if notes are longer than one beat, I should say, then we switch to counts. Because how many times, I'm just looking at measure 3 again here in this exercise, now we have a half note at the end of a 4/4 measure tied over to a quarter note. How often do young singers and young players not get that correct? And it's not because they don't know how to count a half note. It's because they don't have a good sense of where we are in the measure. So in measure 3 and 4, in this method, I would teach kids to read after having practiced lots of division by 4, division by 1, division by 2, etc. using Takadimi, the way we use solfege. They would be able to read fairly quickly. Takadimi ta ta, Takadimi ta ta, and 4 and 1 and ta ta. That's how I would teach them measure 3 and 4. And that was 16th note, followed by quarter note, followed by half tied to quarter, followed by 2 quarters, followed by a rest. I'll do it again. Takadimi ta ta, and 4 and 1 and ta ta. And it's the counting that has very quickly, all in one school year, revolutionized my kids' ability to negotiate situations like that without guessing when to move on to beats 2 and 3 of the next measure. So going back to the beginning of this exercise, I would sound like, or I would teach my kids to negotiate it this way. And of course, just like all the episodes, where if they're not as fluent as me, they're going to take longer to do this. But I'm just trying to demonstrate what the end result will be once they've had the time to work it out. So here's the beginning. If you're watching, if you're not, I wonder if you can figure out, based on what I perform here, what the rhythm is. Ta and 2 and ta-di ta, ta-di di ta. Takadimi ta ta, and 4 and 1 and ta ta. Ta and 2 and ta-di ta, ta-di ta. Ta 1 and ta ta, and 4 d. And then my window covered up measure 8. So I can't see it. It's a whole note. Ta and 2 and 3 and 4 and then we're done. So that would be a Takadimi Tuesdays exercise, complete with all the mistakes and all the, hey, where did we disagree? Did somebody move early on the rest in measure 2? Those types of things will come up, and we'll have that conversation again, keeping the entire rhythm reading exercise to about a 5 or 6 minute exercise at the beginning of class. And just because of alliteration and it sounds cool, we try to do those on Tuesdays. And just like I shared in the last example, if there are a bunch of mistakes and we're beating a dead horse, so to speak, we would just move on, and we would teach the kids that it's okay to not perfect something. If we perfected it, we wouldn't be, and then they will respond, sight reading. We wouldn't be sight reading if we worked on it over and over and over until we perfected it. We're just trying to figure out how to apply the tools in that situation and then go find spots in their music that have those exact patterns or combinations of patterns, or at least skills that we could apply to that repertoire. So if we pull out a song then after that exercise that has some tricky rhythmic patterns, that idea is then fresh in their mind. Now, the next one that I'm going to do is I'm going to demonstrate some actual choral octavo work, where some of this rhythm work gets a layer deeper when there is now words. And I'll introduce another tool that I use with kids related to rhythm, and that is something I simply call rapping. And I say, okay, the first time I introduce it, they think it's funny because I say, all right, we're going to rap this. And of course, they immediately think hip hop. And they look at me funny, and I say, well, what is rap specifically? What is rap? Define it. And eventually we get them to understand that rap is an art form that is speaking in rhythm. It's not singing, or else we wouldn't call it rapping. We would call it singing. We already have a word for that. So rapping is when the artist speaks words in an intentionally rhythmic way. And so if we are I just use that as shorthand in our class we are now going to take out the pitch and try to do the text on only the rhythm. So we're going to speak all the words at exactly the right time. So let me find an example here. I'll screen share again and give you some rehearsal ideas. And then at the end of this episode, you're going to go straight into my classroom again, and I'm going to show you a beginning level choir clip, an intermediate level choir clip of them using some of these tools in their exercises each day. All right, I've got up on the screen here a copy of the classic Craig Hella Johnson's arrangement of Carly Simon's Let the River Run. If you've never done it, you should do it. It's a great one to do with high school singers. And look what we have right away. We have drum rhythms right at the beginning. A great opportunity for them to practice Takadimi, Takadimi, ta-di, Takadimi, 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 ta-di, right out of the bongo line. Establish that, okay, so these you will feel and hear these rhythms happening in the drum. That's your pulse. Then look how it prepares them for measure 5. So the very first thing I would do, probably introducing this piece to them, is I would have them figure out, direct them to notice. Let me say it that way. I would ask leading questions until I get the bass 2s and maybe the baritones here on this first page to recognize that their entire first line of music is only 2 pitches. I would probably go out of context. I would say, all right, basses, what does your first note sound like? And they would sing, I would have played a D already, and they would sing do. And then I would say, out of context, what is the only other note you sing in that line? Do, te, te, do, te. By that point, they would have practiced their minor intervals, minor scale intervals, etc. And we'd find our te. And I'm like, okay, guys, all of the notes in this line are just do or te. Your job is to figure out when the te happens, because everything else is do. And then we could apply a Takadimi tool. We could say, Takadimi ta-di, to figure out coming to the edge, run. That's pretty intuitive. Okay, then they're going to start to learn to copy paste. Now, in this case, I would probably not even do Takadimi, because the words themselves will create an intuitive text inflection. In this case, I would probably go solfege first, wrapping the words second, and if they have rhythmic disagreements, then I would go back and solve them with Takadimi. So we've sung our do, we've sung our te, and then I would have them rap. Coming to the edge, running on the water. Now that run is intuitive for a lot of kids, even without having to think math or think Takadimi, because the word run, the syllable run, running on the water, good composers know that the emphasized syllable likes to get a little bit of extra time. And in a lot of choral music, this ends up taking care of itself. Now, if there's disagreement, if there are kids who don't get it intuitively, then we go back and say, all right, so where's the disagreement? So not all of us are holding run. Maybe somebody's going, coming to the edge, running on the water, or something, right, putting the wrong emphasis somewhere. We solve it that way. We can then go back to, and all within probably one rehearsal, coming to the edge, running on the water. And then I would go to the baritones and say, sing your next note. So. Now your notes are the same. It's just so or fa. Same exact pattern. Can you do what you just heard them do? Coming to the edge, running on the water. Now together. Right? And we're working out rhythm using a variety of tools. And it doesn't have to be only count singing. It doesn't have to be only Takadimi. It can be rapping. It can be solfege. And so one of the things that I see a lot on Facebook pages when teachers are talking about this, I'll see the question, how long do you go on solfege before you put in words? And I'm always flummoxed by this question because it really should be all of it happening in every rehearsal. What my goal is for kids to do is to have I explain it as multiple tracks playing of the song in their head at the same time. We want the pitch track playing, we want the rhythm track playing, we want the text track playing, and we want to be able to switch back and forth at any time. And if we switch back and forth a lot in rehearsal, then that layering starts to happen naturally. So then I go ahead here to the tenor line. This is a stacked kind of added rhythm if you're not familiar with the piece. I'm going to keep myself in the right key. I'm distracted by dogs outside barking. I apologize if you are outside. I'm back in the key of D now. Never fear. Also, that's a great example live on the air here of why I don't allow talking in my classroom. Sometimes my kids think I'm mean because of it, but noise really makes it hard to audiate, especially for beginners, but even for me. So if I have as my do for the tenors, my rule for kids is always sing the do that is closest to your starting note. Well, their note here on this page is te. So the do they should start from, for muscle coordination purposes, is the higher one. Do. Okay, what's your 2 notes that you guys sing most of the time? Te, do, Tay-do, and I would have them practice that out of context. In the right voice. I'm just trying not to blast out the microphone. And then I would have them notice that at the end of the measure, they sing a scale. Okay, what notes are in the scale? Go your own pace. Te, do, re, mi, te, do, re, mi. Okay, cool. So we've got te, do, te, do, te, do, and then we have a scale. Cool. What rhythm does it sound like? Okay, let's try rapping it. Ready, and go. Running, run. This is what they'll do. Running, 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 running. And then we'll have to stop because we won't all agree. And then I'll ask a question. Where did we disagree? Well, we didn't all do the runnings at the same time. Are the runnings all on a beat, or are some of them off of a beat? And then they have to start figuring out where the beat is. Okay, so now we better use Takadimi for this, because running is taka, and then there's a rest on D, and then the next run is me. Taka, me, taka, me, taka, me, taka, me. And if you can't see the video, I'm counting the fours on my fingers, which is just one of the tricks that I have them do. It's not the only trick. Sometimes you could do it on a palm. You could go 1, 2, 3, 4, Takadimi, 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 taka, taka, me, taka, me, taka, me, taka, me, taka, me, running, 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 running. And then they can start to work out where those rhythms go with precision. Takadimi, 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 running, 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 coming to the kana, and then we can put our steady beat back in. We can move back and forth because these mental barriers to a tricky little rhythm are starting to melt away, and it takes repetition. It takes repetition. Now, obviously, with beginning young tenors, we're going to also have intonation issues. We're going to have vocal register challenges, singing up to the high F sharp and all of those things. But if we have a good sense of where we are in the song and where we are in the beat and where we are in the key structure, then we're able to do those things. Now, before I let you go and listen to some of these things with real human children, I'm just going to leave you with a thought. As obviously this is a more of a philosophical, like how to approach the rhythm tool. This is not going to get you to like a high level example here in this episode, because what I'm doing is I'm trying to improve my students' rhythm ability, because I've felt like for the last 10 years, we are just elite at figuring out what pitches to sing. Like our kids get there really, really quickly because of this method. And I haven't been treating rhythm in the same way with as much time and intention as we've been treating pitch. And so we're only 3 or 4 years into this project of figuring out how to get rhythm to be as good as our pitch. And the kids know these things because I talk about it. I talk about like, well, we're really good at this, but we're not very good at this. And, our tone production right now is not amazing. So that's a tool later. We're going to talk about ways we can get our kids singing better. My kids had a better sense of tone before the pandemic, and getting kids to do the work outside of class where they can actually hear themselves is actually one of those really important vocal technique tools that oftentimes doesn't get talked about enough. So we're talking about that too. Like we're always being very open with kids about here are our goals. This is what we want to try to achieve. Right now, rhythm is on that list. And in this episode, you're going to hear some more rudimentary examples of this, but in a way that is, I will just say, is helping us a ton get to the singing in the right time for the right amount of time, way more often than we did 3 years ago. And so these things are really, really helpful, and they have been for me, and I hope that you find any of this helpful in your classroom for your kids. So in this next clip, you're going to hear a nothing special kind of rehearsal moment from our beginning tenor bass class. This was mostly 9th grade boys, and they're going to demonstrate some of the tool combination of Takadimi with counts, solfege with counts that we've been talking about in these tools episodes. And it's just a daily exercise. Again, nothing special or amazing in this clip, but it shows some of these ideas in action with kids that have never done this before, and before this school year, I should say, and are truly beginners. So enjoy this little moment in our tenor bass class. Okay. All right, we're going to do a rhythm exercise. Let's review real quick. So what would we call this? What would we call the part in between? And two is the correct answer. What's this? Ta, again, because it's not D, because it's on a beat. What would we call this? Because this would have been, right? And we have what? Not two. Ta and on 3, because it's beat 3. And then what would this be?
4 and. No. 3 and. Bro. And 1 and.
What would it be in Takadimi? Dimi is the correct answer, and etc. Let's try that top line. Let's try that top line. 1, 2, and go. Ta, 2 and ta. Di ta. 3. Dimi ta, di ta, ta, ta. How long should that last ta have lasted? Half a beat. Okay, do it again from the beginning. See if you can be more precise. 1, 2, and go. Ta and 2 and ta. Di ta. Di ta. Di ta. 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 Where do we seem to start mumbling the most? In between 2 and 3, right? So let's do this to see if it helps. Because this is what should be going on in your brain and what will be going on in your brain when you get really, really good at it. Okay? Let's try it again from the beginning, and this time, if that helps, we're going to keep going and then keep on going to the second line as well. 1, 2, and go. Ta, 2, and ta. Di, ta, and 3, di, ta, di, ta, ta, ta. Do it again from the beginning. 1, and 2, and go. Ta, and 2, and ta. Di, ta, and 3, di, ta, di, ta, ta, ta. 2, 3. Ta, di, ta, and 3, and ta. Di, ta, di, taka, di, ta. What would that be? Ta, not Takita. It's not a triplet. Taka, di. Taka, di. Versus, if it were this, now it's Takita. Okay? All right, now I'm going to throw up there an exercise with pitches. Sing do. Scale and arpeggio. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, fa, mi, re, do. Do, si, la, sol, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Agree. Do, mi, listen. So, mi, do, fa, la, fa. Do, mi, so, mi, do, so, do. Get this message out of the way. So we're going to try this with solfege and the counts that we would use. Okay, let's give it a shot. 1, 2, and go. Do, re, mi, and 2, and do, do. Si, do, and 2, and 3, and mi. Fa, mi, sol, mi, do, si, do, do, and 2, and... What was our wrong note? Second note of 7 is correct. We went too low. We went too low. Where did we go instead? We went to so instead, which is actually a very common mistake. Lots of kids do it because they're both part of the same chord. That's why it would be an easy mistake to swap do, ti for do, so, because they both provide the same chord progression. Okay? So sing the correct version there at measure 7. Ready? And go. Do, si, do, do, and 2, and just for grins, basses sing do, so, but on purpose. Tenors sing do, ti, and we'll hear the chord. Does that make sense? Ready? And go. Do, so, do, do, and 2. And almost every song ends that way. 1, 5, 1 at the end. That's why that mistake has happened. All right, thanks. Appreciate your help. Okay, the next clip you're going to hear is a little bit more advanced. This is our class that is mostly 10th grade girls, and they have been doing this a little bit longer. And they're going to show you not only a rhythm exercise from Sight Reading Factory, which I strongly recommend. Don't just have them read pitch every day. Have them read something every day, but it doesn't have to always be pitch. So this is a rhythm-only exercise. They're going to combine their Takadimi and their counts. There's going to be a little bit of a review. I'm going to be asking them questions, trying to get them to engage mentally, academically with the reading, and then we'll read. And then they'll also take some of those skills and apply them to a song we're trying to learn quickly for our pop variety show. It's a little bit of Aretha Franklin that they're trying to also use their skills and their tools to learn relatively quickly, with me setting the pace and them doing all of the work. Enjoy this one. And of course, you can... and this clip actually turned into a little bit more of a rehearsal, like a full rehearsal. And I just left the camera running. But since it's got a lot of things that are not rhythm tools that happen in this rehearsal, I just left it running. And it was actually an interesting rehearsal. There was a discussion about what types of skills we demonstrate sometimes when I record for you all. And I'm going to play that full version over on the Patreon page and on the paid side of the Substack, because I don't want to put the entire rehearsal out there in public. But if you'd like to see a little bit more of that rehearsal, you can join over there. Enjoy this clip. So what would we call this? There's disagreement. Who's correct? Yes, but why?
Because it's the first. It's the beat started.
Yep. Anyone want to take a stab at why some people shouted out D? Because it's an eighth note. This one would be D.
Yeah.
Because it's why?
On the end of the beat.
The end of the beat. Okay? So we would call this ta. We would call this what?
D. D. Ta.
Yep. And then we would go. How would we combine our tools here? Ta and 2 and 3, D, etc. Does that make sense? Let's give it a shot. Let's give it a shot on our first read. Oh. Okay.
I can't see you.
Yep.
In the way.
1 and 2 and go.
D, D, ta, ta, and 2 and 3. D, ta, ki, da, ta, ta, ta. Ta, ta, and 2 and ta, and 2 and 3. D, ta, ki, da, ta. Ta, and 2 and 3 and...
Where were our disagreements?
The rest.
How many rests should it have been? 2. Disagreement in measure 5 as well. What should we have said? Ta and ta. Well, no, just ta, ta, and what? 3. Not 2. Because it's beat 3. Yep, good. Do it again. Also, we don't agree on the tempo. What did we do to our tempo? We slowed it down as soon as I stopped snapping. Try again. Try again. 1 and 2 and go.
Ta, D, D, ta, ta, and 2 and 3. D, ta, ki, da, ta, ta, ta. Ta, ta, and 3 and ta, and 2 and 3. D, ta, ki, da, ta, ta, and 2 and 3 and...
Very nice, very nice. Okay, now take out the coda of I say a little prayer for ya. Sing do. Ready, and 1. And then how would we have counted that?
4,
Do and 3 and 4 and 1 and off. Try again. Go back to 44. No, 47. For me, there is no one. Still solfege. Ready, and 1. Answer my prayer. Okay, good. So what is getting us in the I'm in love with you and the say you love me too part?
The you in two.
Is it pitch or rhythm?
Rhythm.
I think it's rhythm. So what tool should we use? I would do some rapping. I would do some Takadimi-ing. I would still continue to encourage the altos who are 100% not audiating to audiate before they sing, because we've missed every single first note. Okay, go back to measure 47. Go back to measure 47 and start working out your part. You have 30 seconds. Everybody should have their own music. It's all around you.
I know, but there's just so many noises. And then these other two is a solo, and then we go.
Okay, time's up. Here we go. Measure 47 again. 47. Ready, and 1. Again, late. Again, late. Ready, and 1. That's a solo. 3, 4. Hold your next. Correct on the soprano. Thank you for finding it, altos, eventually. Sing your note there. Shh, don't talk. Sing your note there. Now, rap that measure. Rap that measure. What beat does it come in on? The unt of dos. That's correct. Here we go. 1 and late. 1 and in love with you. Try it again. 1 and in love with you. Now sing and hold your first solfege. And go. 1 and late. Wait, late. 1 and early doesn't fix late. 1 and do it again. 1 and there you are. So just some day in the life, regular class, regular kids, learning and not perfecting, but learning how to do all of these things in a way that is really doing awesome things for the corporate sense of contribution, classroom management, all of the things that are going on in a class of girls you heard, which was 40 girls or so in the room and 20 guys in the room, and keeping everybody engaged and plugged in because they feel like these are tools that they're learning to use and actually apply them. And then when they apply them, they know cool songs. And that's the buy-in that we're hoping to get. So thanks for listening to this episode. I hope you found something useful. And just like I find when I'm interviewing awesome people on a lot of the episodes on this show, I find something I can bring into the classroom. I hope you can bring something into the classroom. And my hope is to get the rest of this series done in time for you to be ready to really dig into it for the beginning of next school year, because any new system that you choose to implement, any aspects of this system that you choose to pull in are really best done from day one. The day one of your beginners. By the time that your beginners are your advanced kids, then these things start to run themselves, and that's the goal. Thank you so much for sticking around to the end of a conversation. If you are still hearing my voice, that means you're one of the MVPs, one of the diehards, one of the real ones, as the kids say. So if you are willing on the way out to check out a few different ways that you can help me continue to make this show high quality. 1, use the promo code. That's the biggest one. At Sight Reading Factory, at mymusicfolders.com, at mychoirropes.com, at graphitepublishing.com, and endeavormusicpublishing.com. All of those take the Choralosophy checkout code, and of course now the newest one is 3-Minute Theory. You can get a 15% discount when you enter Choralosophy at checkout there. And of course, Going to Apple Podcasts and leaving a positive review is very helpful there, and sharing the episodes to your colleagues in real life and on social media. All of those things are incredibly helpful and allow me to continue to create this resource for you. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you next time.